in the chat box.
Hi, my name is Terry Osterhout-Payton. I am a respiratory therapist at Margaretville Memorial Hospital. I am joining you today to talk about chronic lower respiratory disease. I want to start with, whoops, I'm skipping ahead of myself here. Sorry about that. We did have a conversation about how it likes to jump ahead. What is COPD? COPD is a lung disease that blocks airflow. It makes it difficult to breathe. You have shortness of breath, wheezing, and chronic cough. Most common are the most common symptoms. Chronic bronchitis and emphysema are two of the more prominent forms of COPD. Chronic bronchitis, your airways are exposed to long-term pollution, irritation or inflammation, causing lungs to lose their cleaning mechanism. So you have cilia in your airways, little filters, just like in your nose, little hairs that help to clean your lungs or keep your lungs clean. And those filters don't work the same way. And your airways are not able to stay clean, and they get mucus product, or they build up mucus, and you get thickening in your airways, and you have causing blockages, and it reduces airflow. With emphysema, you have the air sacs lose their shape and become floppy. It's kind of like if you think of a sponge, when you have a brand new sponge, it's firm and it feels, it springs back when you're using it. As a sponge ages, it doesn't keep its shape as well. That's how your airway is with emphysema. Your airways lose their elasticity, and you can trap air inside of your lungs as you're breathing. So you breathe in, and as you blow out, air gets trapped inside. The airway gets damaged, and you're unable to get oxygen in and out, and then you're unable to get oxygen to your bloodstream, creating even more problems. So chronic bronchitis and emphysema, and it's a progressive disease, usually worsening over time unless we make changes to help ourselves through this process. Another chronic lower respiratory disease, and I'll go back to those, but I want to continue with all of our chronic lower respiratory diseases, is asthma. Asthma, the insides of the walls of the airways in your lungs can become inflamed and swollen. This also happens with chronic bronchitis and emphysema. In addition, the membranes in the airway linings can secrete mucus. So when you have inflammation in your airways, you have an increase in mucus production. And when you have an increase in mucus production, your airways are smaller than they normally would be, which makes it harder to move the air in and out of your lungs. Then have an asthma attack. That is the smooth muscle on the outside of the airway tightening, and now your airway is even smaller, making it even harder for you to get air in and out of your lungs. So an asthma attack, on top of having an exacerbation of your symptoms, creates an even a bigger problem. So it's another chronic lower respiratory disease. So here's a picture of when your airway gets tight, you're unable to move the air in and out, and you have trouble breathing throughout this whole process. And now you can't get the mucus in and out either. It just makes it very difficult for you to breathe. And then panic kicks in, your heart rate increases, makes it even harder to breathe. So it just becomes this very vicious cycle, and makes it even harder for any one of you to get air in and out. I'm sorry. Pulmonary hypertension, moving on. Pulmonary hypertension is another chronic lower respiratory disease. And in this, We also have work-related lung diseases, multiple forms of work-related lung diseases. Asbestosis, coal workers, pneumococcal, black lung disease. Let me just use that. Silicosis, brown lung disease, pneumonitis, work-related asthma. What I have been doing is going out into the community and talking to people about chronic lower respiratory disease, primarily focusing on COPD and asthma, and talking to them about how to properly take their medications, how to properly do their treatments, going over foods and diet and exercise. I have been working with people in the community, primarily rural areas, because especially I'm in Margaretville, we have a pulmonologist here one day a month, and there's a cardiologist here one day a month. So in this area, we don't have a lot of exposure to doctors coming out in the area, and people aren't able to not just see them, but get their questions answered and speak to doctors, or just feel comfortable in understanding what's going on. So I've been going out, I'm talking to senior groups, I'm meeting with people here at the hospital doing classes, talking about bronchitis, talking about emphysema, talking about asthma, going over what each one of them is, and then we talk about what do we do to treat it. So we have, first of all, are you still smoking? And that's a big part of what do we do? How do we stop the process? How do we stop the disease? Because we can stop the progression if we quit smoking, if we change our habits, if we do make changes to help stop the process of the disease from getting worse. If you're not smoking, fantastic. Then you've already made that step. In the meantime, we work on quitting and processes of stopping smoking or cutting back, or just trying to help people do different things. We also work on how do we keep our symptoms down. Right now it's cold. When you go outside, are you covering your face with a scarf? Are you making sure to have the car warmed up so that you're not having to breathe in really cold air? When you have a lung disease, you go out in cold air, your airway gets tight when you breathe in. So keeping your airway moist and warm by keeping a scarf in front of your face, or by having the car warmed up before you go out, or not going out when it's super cold, help to keep your lung diseases from exacerbating. And this is a really bad time of the year for lung disease, because it's prime time for everybody to catch a cold. And especially for people with chronic lung disease, this is the time of year where we see a lot of people coming in and out of the hospital. We've also seen a big climb this year in COVID and RSV. So making sure to wash your hands, keeping clean. And how about, I have a wood stove. I use the wood stove every day. I also have asthma. So I have to make sure that I'm keeping the house clean, keeping the dust down. I have pets. I brush my dogs every day. That seems a little overkill, but I also want to make sure that I'm not exposing myself, and knowing what I'm allergic to, which I explain to people, understanding what bothers you. It's not the dog itself, it's their dander, it's their saliva, it's their urine. So keeping them clean is important, any pet, and cleaning up after them, making sure to vacuum, making sure to dust regularly is a key part of maintaining your home when you have a pet. Exercise is huge for everyone. Making sure to get out, and you don't have to do a lot. Someone who has a lung disease may not be able to walk for miles and miles, but what you can do, right in a chair, and I very strongly encourage them from a chair, because our breathing muscles are right here in our chest and in our shoulders. Our diaphragm is our primary breathing muscle, but what I do encourage them to do, don't forget, staying alive, staying alive. How about those kinds of exercises? Sitting in the chair, arms above the head. How about rolling? Doing things like this for 5 minutes, 3 times a day. They don't even have to get up. We have a class here for the group that comes in for education, chair yoga, because from the chair, they can get so much done to help their lung disease by strengthening their muscles, by helping to keep them strong, and even their legs. From the chair, you can still do exercises that help to circulate your blood and move things around to help you keep your body strong through all of this process. So we do all of these classes to help make sure that you're staying as strong as you can be and as active as you can be. We encourage vaccinations. We actually have vaccinations right here at the hospital. So if you come in for class, you can go right to the pharmacy afterwards and get your RSV vaccination. You can get your COVID vaccination. You can get your pneumonia vaccination. It's important, especially after the age of 60, that we're making sure that we're getting our vaccinations. As I said before, COVID numbers are climbing, RSV numbers are climbing. We're exposed to so many things out there now, and staying healthy. I don't want people to have to stay in their house all the time, but making sure that you're practicing hand hygiene and keeping masked when you're out in public places. The numbers are climbing again. We're going to have to mask up again. So practicing safety is important. But our vaccinations are important. How about the flu vaccine? In the hospital, we have to get it, but people don't get it because they're afraid of vaccinations. But it's very important that you do get your vaccinations. The breathing medications. So here's a huge thing. When I talk to the patients about their medications, I take the blue one. They never remember which one it is that they're on. I take the purple one. And then what they remember is, this one makes my breathing easier. That's the one I'm going to take. They don't know that the purple one, is the one that helps to decrease the inflammation. If you decrease the inflammation, that helps to decrease the mucus production, helps to open up your airway. And that's the bigger picture. They're using their rescue medication, which I can feel right now. Oh yeah, I can take a bigger breath. It's easier for me to breathe. They don't understand that their controller medication is the one that's controlling the inflammation in their airway, which controls how much mucus is produced, which then helps to open their airway. So they don't take it because I don't feel any change. There's no difference. Why am I taking this medication? There's nothing happening. And I have to show them that over time, it takes time for some of these medicines to work, and they just have to see it over time as opposed to immediate relief. And that's something that's learned, and it takes some time. Primarily 3 different meds that we look at, your long-term, your quick relief, and then your emergency, which would be like your prednisones. So when your patients come into the hospital and they're really bad and we're having to give them the Solumedrol and the prednisones, those are the ones I'm talking about for this group. And then I hugely encourage all of my patients to use a spacer with their inhalers, with their MDIs, because when you use a spacer, you're going to double the amount of medication that you're going to get into your lungs, at least. When you put the MDI in your mouth, I always say, if you can taste the medicine, that's where the medicine is. It's in your mouth. It didn't get into your lungs. So I always encourage them to use a spacer. The spacer helps to deliver more medication to their lungs. And I give every one of them in my class a spacer to use. We go over technique. And this is all free. This is a program that we're doing here at the hospital because there isn't, as I said, a lot of service in rural areas for them. So we want to make sure to deliver that to them. Here's just a picture of an example of what using the difference between using a spacer and not using a spacer. And when you're using an inhaled steroid, it helps to decrease the inflammation. And this is your controller medications. It's combination medications help to decrease the inflammation, decreases the mucus, opens up the airway. That's what controls our symptoms. That's what helps to make us feel better more often. But it takes time, and people don't understand that. And that's discouraging because they're also very costly, and people don't want to do that because of the cost. I talk to them about making sure that they check the websites of their medication makers. A lot of them offer discounts if it's a first-time purchase. If you've never bought that medication before, you might be able to get a year's supply for a lesser amount. You may only be able to get 1 or 2, but always check the websites first. I encourage them to also check with their doctors to see if they have any samples, because quite often you may try a couple different kinds of medicines before you settle on one, and that can get costly as well, because I'll use Advair as an example. Advair is about $360. That's a controller medication, and that's monthly. And if your insurance doesn't cover it, $360 is a lot of money. Even if it does cover it, you may have a copay of $40 to $60. That's a lot of money. Now, these controller meds can cause thrush. So instead of telling my patients when they use their controller medication to rinse their mouth, I just tell them when they use their medications, rinse their mouth, because they don't always remember which one's which. So I just tell them, when you use your breathing medications, rinse your mouth out and spit. Do not swallow. They need to rinse their mouths out, spit it out. I tell them, use your medication before you're going to brush your teeth, then brush your teeth, brush your tongue, spit, so that they don't get thrush. Especially people at end stage disease, they're going to be much more predisposed to getting infections. And when they get the infections, they're pretty severe. They can get them down into their bellies, into their lungs, and end up on antibiotics for weeks and weeks. And it's very, very painful. And I always encourage them to just, brush their teeth, brush their tongues, to help prevent this from happening. They may need oxygen. And this is a big thing for people. They feel that this is, it's a life-changing thing, and they don't want to do it. So we do talk about whether it's being on oxygen or needing oxygen, or that they can live with oxygen, they can travel with oxygen. We even talk about, if they're traveling, how to set that up, how to prepare, how to plan, because I don't want people to feel limited. We have quite a few people who come and talk, because now they have all the commercials for, now I'm going to forget what it is, for the portable oxygen the little guy, and I'm forgetting what it's called. Somebody will think of it for me and pop it up there. But trilogy, not trilogy. It's something similar to that. It works for some. The problem is it's called a pulse dose oxygen, and that means it only works as they're breathing in. So if they're breathing through their mouth, it's not going to work so well. And if they're breathing really fast, it's not going to meet their demand. So depending on how many liters of oxygen are on, it may not work at all. So these are things that they have to understand. And you can actually buy this yourself without even having, you have to have a prescription, but you can buy it without having, you have to have a prescription, but you can just buy it. So that's discouraging to me, because somebody who needs 4 or 5 liters, it's not going to work for them, because their demand is too much. But this they'll allow you to buy it. And understanding all of this is important, and I want to make sure that they do. It's something we talk about. Breathing techniques. I'm probably running low on time. We discuss 3 different things. Walking and talking. Do not walk and talk. When you have a breathing problem, especially if you're on oxygen, when you're walking, you don't talk. You walk and you focus on your breathing. Breathe in, 1, 2, blow out, 1, 2, 3, 4. When you're sitting, pursed lip breathing, especially if you're having trouble. Breathe in through your nose, purse your lips to blow out, and blow out longer than you breathe in. Diaphragmatic breathing, I have them hold their belly, breathe in through their diaphragm. It's your strongest muscle. Work on strengthening that muscle to help with your breathing. And I tell them, think about singers who can hold a long note. They use their diaphragm to do that. So focus on holding your belly and carrying that note. And I'll carry the note for them forever and talk to them for a long time and say, see how long I can carry that note, and show them how to breathe through their diaphragm. How about foods? This is another thing. Don't eat broccoli and brown beans. They are going to fill your belly with air, and that's going to compress your lungs, and you're not going to be able to take a deep breath. You have to remember what foods to eat together. You don't want to eat too much of something, or eat too much at all. Thanksgiving dinner, you're not going to be able to breathe if you eat the big Thanksgiving dinner. Someone who has trouble with lung disease might want to focus on smaller, more frequent meals. We also have a nutritionist come to talk to them. Maybe you want to take some time for preparing the foods. You want to have, make hard-boiled eggs. The next morning, you might make them into deviled eggs, but you do it in a process as opposed to all in one time, because that's a lot of energy being used. But that's a nice, healthy, good protein snack that's filling. And it's a good pop it in your mouth, separate your whites, leave your devil part in the fridge in a little bowl, and scoop a bit and put it in your egg, and now you've got a good snack. We talk about having different things like that, and prepared. Carrots, love them. Eat them cooked. If you have a hard carrot and you're eating carrots, it's a much harder, more energy consuming snack. Takes a lot of energy to eat a carrot, a piece of celery. So making sure you have softer foods. I'm not telling you not to have the things you like, but keep in mind, you might want to, have the carrots with hummus as opposed to carrots and celery. You want to try to mix things up to make it easier for you. And then having an action plan and understanding your medications and understanding when you're not feeling so well and when it's time to call the doctor is huge. And then the managing your COPD is all of the things that I just talked about, all of the things that we go over in the class, and review and re-review. Every time we have class, I talk about their medications. Every time we do their breathing exercises. And then encourage pulmonary rehab, because that will help. And this isn't a pulmonary rehab program. It's just more of a living with chronic lower respiratory disease and understanding. But pulmonary rehab is key to managing, maintaining, and staying healthy. Questions?
Well, thank you, Terry. That was really informative. If you have questions, remember to put them in the chat. I do have a question about the pulmonary rehab. Is that something most people do ongoing, or they come for a short period of time, or it varies?
So generally, pulmonary rehab is approved for like an 18-week session, and then it's done. They may get approved for a second session down the road, maybe a year or two, but it's not a continuous. Generally 1 to 2 sessions in a lifetime.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions from anyone who's in the meeting? We have one from Stacy. Do you take anyone with or without insurance? And is it all over Ulster County?
This is a free program, and it is for any, and it's a rural community program, but we take anybody. I have actually had people coming, and it doesn't have to be for the class. It can be for individual sessions. And it's for education, for disease management. Here at Margaretville, I'm even happy if you had a group of people that wanted education somewhere else, I would go to them. Not probably one, but for 4 or 5, absolutely. Insurance doesn't matter. It's free. I've been going out to all of Delaware County, parts of Ulster, parts of Greene. I have people in Sullivan County now. We're just trying to hit, as I said, primarily rural, but I have people coming from Kingston that came down for the classes, and that's not rural. If they need the education, I'm happy to provide it. And it is chronic lower respiratory disease. And I'm sorry, I was nervous in the beginning, so I'm a little tongue-tied, but it's all lung disease. I'm a respiratory therapist. If you came in with bronchiolitis, if you came in with lung cancer, I am going to research whatever it is you have, and I'm going to do my very best to make sure that I'm doing what I can for you, because to me, it's important that I do what I can to help. And the program has agreed with me on that. I have had someone with bronchiolitis. I have had someone with vocal cord dysfunction. And we're not turning people away. If you want education and you want a better understanding, and as the person with vocal cord dysfunction said, the exercises, the eating, all of those things pertain to anybody. So it shouldn't be limited to lower respiratory disease. It was just more rural because we're in Margaretville, and there just isn't a lot of availability for people out here to have care.
Thank you so very much. It was a really, really informative presentation. I know that a lot of us work with people that we can share this information with as well. So thank you for joining us, Terry. I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
I'm just going to share my screen. Right now, I'm going to ask Ninette to launch just a little poll, just 3 little questions for everybody to answer. It's just really, was this presentation relevant to your work or personal life? And it looks like we have almost everybody participated. We're going to give a 100% participation, and then we'll move on to our next presenter. So we're almost there. If everybody could just answer the questions in the poll, be great. We're pretty close. I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, looks like we're there. So, let me just see if I can get us here. Okay, so our next presenter is Cecilia Papke. She is from People USA, and she'll be speaking on the topic of People USA services for the community and also COVID-19 education. She is a New York CPS COVID Vax peer, and she will be presenting. I'll be sharing her slide deck because, as many of you know, she is also helping with a client. So she's going to be actually presenting in transit, basically. She's in her car waiting for a client. So we give her lots of accolades for, dual
Hi.
tasking. So let me share her presentation for her. Let me just make sure I've got it. Just going to move it back to the beginning and we'll let you start. Okay, can everybody see her presentation? I think so. So again, we said the title, People USA Services for the Community and COVID-19 Education. And I'm just going to move the slides as you tell me, Cecilia.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Cecilia Papke. I'm with People USA. And if you're not familiar with us, we are a peer-run mental health, substance use, and housing provider for the Hudson Valley region. So we basically serve 5 counties, which is Putnam, Orange, Dutchess. We also serve Warren and Westchester. And what we're trying to do is to do outreach to everyone to let them be aware of the services that we offer and also give information about the COVID-19 vaccines and the virus. So without any further ado, I'll get started. One of the services we offer, which is pretty popular, is care coordination. I'm sure a lot of people know what care coordination is. We do things like connect them to mental health and medical providers, assistance with applying for benefits like SSDI. We also do things like recommend them to housing. The great thing I really like about People USA is if we can't help them, we don't drop the ball. We link them to somebody who can, since it's peer run, because we understand, we've been there. We have things like where we hook them up in care coordination to vocational, like jobs and education, transportation support. Usually that's to doctor's appointments, what I'm doing now. And here he comes. Come on in. I'm doing a presentation, so I'm going to ask you to just wait for me, okay? And then we also do peer support and advocacy, social recreational activities. We help them if they're having some social issues, implementation of care plan to achieve goals and linkages and referrals. We can go to the next one. And that's integrated peers. Now, integrated peers is a little bit different than what you might be familiar with as far as a regular peer advocate does. And what that is an integrated peer is going to be in the hospitals, like the what do you call it? The centers. And I just completely lost the word. But if they're going to be at the centers where people go when they're in crisis, they'll be at the regular hospitals as well. So if somebody's going through, like the stabilization centers, there it is. If somebody's going through a crisis, we're going to have peers there that'll be able to assist them and advocate for them, which I think is really important. I myself, being a peer, have been in a psychiatric hospital before in my life. And I know that it can be very overwhelming and overstimulating to not really have someone that you can speak to and that can advocate to make sure that your needs are being met. So this is something that we're doing. We also have the next slide. Supportive housing, and this is probably our most popular program because we know of the housing crisis, especially up here in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley region. And so we do things like one of the things I love about that we do is we do things like what you call pay part of the rent for them, rent subsidies. So we have that program if they qualify through us through HARP. Now, a lot of people may come and they may not qualify. So what we do is we also will help link them to things like SPOA, which you may be familiar with, Section 8 and RUPCO. So we try to, a lot of times what we do even is we'll try to place people in situations where if they're homeless and they come in and they're in the process, normally they have to go to DSS, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. Go to DSS and wait and wait and wait and wait to be told that there's no room. And then they have to find a place to stay. And if you're familiar with the system, a lot of times what happens is we have to call someplace like Family of Woodstock if the warming center is not available at the time. And we can't call till after 5, and most of the places call at, close at 5, and then we get them over there and try to get them placed. And sometimes this can be a repeat process. It is frustrating. So we're working on trying to find ways to, and any questions or advice is greatly appreciated, or ideas, because I think everybody feels this strongly. It's like wanting to help someone get out of the cold or out of the heat in the summer, and the process can be frustrating. But what we do is we eventually try to get them into a safe place like a hotel or a motel, and then into an apartment. So that's the main goal of supportive housing. And then, make sure that they're paying their rent, keep up with them, do home visits, see how they're doing mentally, how their place is kept, and just overall try to help them find their recovery path. Next slide, please. We also have core services. That's me. So core services, a lot of advocacy, like taking people to doctor's appointments is what I'm doing now. If they are looking for an apartment, sometimes we'll step in and we'll take them to go see an apartment. A lot of people assume that advocacy is we're going to take them grocery shopping all the time. We don't do that. We do that once in a while. So we try to keep that to a minimum, because most of the thing that I really love about People USA is that we try to do is through empowerment, which is encouraging someone to learn how to do for themselves, so the next time they can do it on their own. So it's a process, and we understand not everybody is able to do everything, because we know we've been there. So with core services, it's really about helping them to get to where they can handle things on their own. Next slide, please. Sorry about that. Now we have Rose houses, and a lot of people aren't familiar with Rose houses. I find this kind of interesting because it's a great place. If you know somebody that's been to like a stabilization center, and it can be very overwhelming in a stabilization center, and you're only there for 23 hours and 59 seconds, and then you're out. Now, the Rose House is a little different because it's a very nice place, and it looks kind of like a hotel, and they can stay there for like 3 to 5 days. The maximum is 7 days, and that's with approval. And what we try to do is there's 24/7 care there with staff, with counselors, with care coordination, with people that can talk to them at any time they want. So say they come in with a crisis, and they don't want to talk to anybody till 3 a.m. There'll be somebody there at 3 a.m. So we try to make sure that we can help them get on their feet. And then the next steps is we work with them to find out, okay, where do we go now? Do you need to go to care management? Do you need to go to housing? Do you need to go to advocacy? It's all about helping them find the path that they need to take to get to where they need to be. Okay, next slide, please. And tell me if I go too fast, because sometimes I talk really fast.
No, I think you're doing
We
great.
have mobile crisis. Okay, we have mobile crisis response teams, and I love this. I love this because I'm from Texas and we didn't have this. So I love New York. Mobile crisis response teams really are marvelous, because if someone's going through a mental situation, it's like the police are trained to do a certain thing. And I have had many police friends in my lifetime, friends who were police officers, and they're trained to act and respond a certain way to crisis or to a threat. With a mobile response crisis team, there will be like a peer there, someone like myself who's trained to go on outreach with the police officers. So when they get a call and someone with a mental issue is in crisis, they'll know, hey, don't go shoot this guy. Let's talk to him first and see where they're at, and de-escalate. and find a way to help them find that happy medium where it's like, okay, I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm not in any danger. And maybe get them into stabilization center if they need it, or to the ER. But it really helps to prevent unfortunate situations. And I really do love the mobile crisis response team. Okay, next slide. And then, of course, we have employment and benefits counseling. So this is really fun. I have experienced this coming up here myself. I wasn't with People USA, I was with another agency when I first came up to New York in March. And we do things like resume building. There's interview skills, teaching them how to get through an interview. Benefits counseling, seeing if maybe they can work part-time, but they may qualify for benefits and they don't know it. And you'd be surprised how many people don't realize that they qualify for benefits. And then they have the ticket to work. Oh, I love the ticket to work. And I can tell you all about that someday because I have experienced that myself. And it's a fantastic, fantastic thing. It's where you can briefly work for like 6 months and make as much as you want on your job and still receive your benefits. And at the end of those 6 months, once you've proven that you are employed all the time and that you can take care of yourself, then they take away your benefits and then you just on your job. This really helps people get situated because when you're like starting a job, you don't have really anything a lot of the times, especially if you're coming out of the system. So having that extra income really helps them to save for an apartment, save for, furniture and all the expenses that it takes to get going. So I think it's a fabulous thing. Workplace readiness, working with someone to teach them how, what's appropriate, basically, the things that you can and can't do in the workplace, because it depends on where you're working. Some places are really loose and some places maybe a little bit more stiff and have more rules. And then, of course, job search and placement, helping them explore what kind of jobs would be good for them. So it's overall, I really enjoy this. And I've done this before when I was in Texas, and I really like to help people find their dreams and get going, and feel like, hey, just because I have a disability, which I have a disability myself, it doesn't limit me. It doesn't define me. I can still find my pathway to recovery. And recovery is for us is not just an option, it's a reality. And that's what we focus on in People USA, is to help people get there. And so that's a list of our services. Now, in the next slide, I have a whole list of myths about COVID-19 because that's my job.
I think there was one.
And we don't have to go over all of them. Because
you had that crisis stabilization center as well?
Oh, crisis stabilization. Yeah, I kind of went over that. Yeah, sorry, I missed that one. Crisis stabilization center is okay. Yeah, that's the one where you can stay 23 hours and 59 seconds. So it's like a crisis place. Okay, we can skip ahead. Okay, so I have a list of myths of COVID-19 vaccine myths. If anybody wants a copy of it, just email me. I do a lot of research. I research every single day because the news is always changing, constantly changing. And one thing they say this day, the other day, and you have to sort through what is actually correct and what is political. So it's just doing a lot of research. And I'll call the places directly. I'll call Moderna myself and ask them, hey, what's up? Because, I read this and I want to know if it's true. So, I go over things like, does it cause meat allergies? Does it cause sudden death? Does it have a microchip? So if you have anybody that you're working with that is like really, really scared of the vaccine because they heard something, I can give you a copy. And I try to give as much information as I have that I found that can direct them to show them, hey, that's just a myth, that nothing to worry about. And then lastly, a little information on the COVID-19 vaccine virus. So I'm very passionate about this because I myself almost died from COVID-19 in 2021. I was in the hospital. They said I almost coded. I was in there for a week. I was on oxygen for 2 months. It really messed up my life. So I'm a very big advocate for people getting vaccinated. Now, it's always a choice. It's not necessary to do it. But if you are a high-risk group, which means anyone over the age of 50, anyone with the immune disorder, anyone with a heart issue, it's recommended. If you are obese, it's recommended. So there's a lot of factors that go into who does need a COVID-19 vaccine and who doesn't, who's recommended to. So if you've seen a lot of information, we basically have like 3 main vaccines, which is the Moderna, which is the Pfizer, and the other one that's coming out, I forgot the name. I know it starts with an N, and for some reason it slipped my mind. But they're all bivalent. So what does this mean? Because a lot of times when you see that the vaccines, you'll see it'll say monovalent and monovalent. I can't say the word, or bivalent. So mono meaning one, it covers one virus. Bivalent meaning bi covers 2. Now there's 2 main viruses right now, so I'll talk about those, okay? The Omicron, which was probably the worst one that we came out, if everyone remembers that, back in 2021, 2022. It has developed and mutated, much like a cold, because people always ask me why do we keep needing to get vaccines? Well, because like a cold, the cold mutates and mutates and mutates and mutates, and they can never find a cure for it. Well, with COVID-19 is much more serious now. It's not as severe as it hit us back in 2020, but what they're finding is from the Omicron variant, the BA.2.86 variant specifically has created a mutation, which is the JN.1, which you've probably seen a lot in the news. The bad news about this particular virus is attacking the lower lungs, where most of the respiratory infections and diseases are. So if you have bronchitis, if you have COPD, if you have anything like that, that's high risk, the COVID now virus can do a lot of damage. And so they're very concerned, and they want anyone over the age of 60 to get the virus, to get the vaccine, just to be safe. Now, what they're doing since 2020 is they have been working on an intranasal or through the mucosal lining vaccine that will be administered as opposed to intramuscular, which is the shot. So basically what that means is because we have very thin lining on our nose, that goes directly, it'll be distributed through our body and to the area where it is attacking much faster. And through some studies they have done, there was a 46% increase in antibodies in the nasal passage while they're doing this research into the intranasal vaccines. So that's a great thing. They're still in the works. They still haven't released it. There's a pill out right now, but it's not official. FDA is still approving it. They're going to have like a mist or spray, hopefully pretty soon, because of the way this virus is mutating. And so if this gets developed the way it wants to, it'll be much better. The reason why they're doing that as opposed to just the intramuscular is because with a shot, a lot of times there is virus shedding, which that is like making it help to replicate the virus. Because there's not a live virus in the vaccine. I want to be clear about that. Some vaccines do have live viruses or weakened viruses, and there's more virus shedding that way. But the COVID-19 is basically a quote unquote dead virus. So even though there is some virus shedding, with it's going to be a lot less than other normal vaccines. But it can happen. So they are concerned about that, especially the way that it's developing. Now, another thing a lot of people may not know, a recent study was done in the UK, and a lot of people will ask me, well, if I get COVID, how fast can I get it again? The fastest recorded time that they have, and this was a study that was done in the UK, was 20 days. But the average time for a reinfection of COVID is 343 days, so close to a year. So it's not really likely once you get COVID, unless you are a high-risk group, that you're going to catch it again likely anytime soon. So keep that in mind. And the only thing that they're concerned about is with the JN.1, it is a bit more aggressive. So if you are high risk again, please consider the vaccine. They have found also new news today that the COVID-19, if you catch it several times, it's getting worse. It's creating more problems. Things like blood clots, increased infection based on your age. It could damage the pancreas and endocrine system, as well as having a high inflammation that could give you heart issues. And it's even creating long COVID in people now, if you keep catching it over and over. So they're very concerned. So if I always tell everyone, it's better to be safe than be sorry. Get the vaccine. I got my first 2 shots, and I'm glad I did, because had I not got my first 2 shots, I may not be here today. Because I did have my vaccine, I am alive. So I am a big proponent of telling everyone, please get your vaccine if you can. All right, and that's it.
I'm muted. Thank you so
I can't
much.
hear.
I just wanted to share your contact information as well. So if you want to reach out to Cecilia to learn more about People USA, or to refer clients, her email is listed on the slide, so you can grab that. And I think Cecilia also put her contact information in the chat. I saw that early. So you can reach out for that. I'm going to look to see if there are some questions here. So the first is, let's see, are there any plans to establish a Rose House in the greater Kingston area? And does your mobile crisis response team work with Ulster County Mobile Mental Health with the Sheriff's Oracle team in Ulster County? And that question comes from Vin Martello.
Hi, Vincent. Okay, as far as the Rose House goes, I know that we are doing a stabilization center, but I don't know about the Rose House yet, but I will find out for you. If you want to email me, let me know, and I'll find out and get you that information. As far as the mental health, I would assume that they do, because they pretty much work with everybody.
Okay, and Susan Lennon has said that this is such an important care service presentation. She had another meeting and had to hop off, but she wanted to thank you. And then Christine Noble would like a copy of the presentation, which we do post online. And Juliana also said, yes, thanks. She'd also like the presentation. And Suzanne Callahan has shared that she knew several people who were recently reinfected with COVID within 3 weeks, which seems crazy. Wondering if it could be 2 different strains, which I don't know if any of us can answer, but just making that comment about COVID. So it's
Well, there
definitely
are,
a topic that's relevant for all of us.
yeah, there are different strains out there, but they're concentrating right now on the JN1, because the COVID itself at last count had about 26 different variants, and that's growing because it's like a cold, it keeps going. So yeah, 20 days. So in 3 weeks, that's over 20 days. So yeah, that's pretty fast. So they could have caught something and then they're recovering and their system was weakened and then got it again, which is not uncommon, if you have a weakened immune system.
Vin commented that it
Yeah, exactly.
could be their viral load dropped before the last rest and then it spiked back up. So it's basically the same infection that just resurged. But yes, thank you so much, Cecilia. You were so adaptable in presenting from your cell phone in your car while, doing great work. So we very much appreciate it and the patience of your client as well. And I'm going to stop sharing this presentation. And I'll just share, we're going to do another poll, basically. Just again, it's just a little evaluation poll. So if you could launch that, Ninette, that would be great. So here's our second poll. Same question. Was this presentation relevant to your work or personal life? Looks like it's already been, we're working on the answers here. It's a yes, no, or maybe. It's pretty simple. When I see that everybody's participated, I'll end the poll and we'll move on to the next part of our meeting. And again, thanking our presenters so much for fantastic presentations and sharing today. Our networking session will be coming right up. We will follow the poll with the movement break, which will be just a couple of minutes. So we're working on that. And I think we're about there. 14 out of 19. We're close. Looks like we got it. So I'm going to move on to the movement break and I'm going to let Ninette share that. So let me stop sharing. And Ninette will be sharing our movement break. And
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
I was going to say Terry would have been great to lead this movement break. She was throwing out really great ideas before, but we have a little something planned. So I encourage everybody to participate. I'll share the video. You can feel free to turn your screen off if you're more comfortable doing that. And also there is part of it where you need to stand up, but feel free to stay seated. We can always modify and, of course, listen to your body. So I'm going to share my screen and hopefully it works. The internet is being just like a little bit slow, so let me see here. All right, and can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Here we go. Oh, here we go.
Hey, I'm Christian.
And I'm Jacqueline.
We're both fitness specialists with Live for Life, and today we're going to go over a couple of basic stretches that you can do at your desk.
As you
Oh no.
It is moving
Of
a little
course.
slow. You've got some
as you reach down
buffering
towards your
happening.
toes,
Oh,
the leg can be fully straight or with a
you know,
slight bend,
I might just do a little pivot and
depending
maybe
on your
I'll
current
lead a
flexibility.
little stretch break
This
just
stretch
because
will work on
Sounds like
I have a feeling the
good
video is
idea
going to be
because the
too
internet's
choppy.
just a hair slow. I did share the link to this in
So,
the chat. It's just a couple of minutes to share stretching at your desk, which is always a good idea. And I'll let Ninette lead something.
yeah. So let me stop sharing so y'all can see me better. And I'm going to back up. And one thing that I really love to do after typing all day is to just reach your arm up like this and do a gentle stretch, folding your fingers down to the bottom. You don't want to overstretch, but what this does is open up that carpal tunnel. So that's where the nerve goes through your arm and into your hands to help prevent carpal tunnel syndrome. So let's go to the other hand. Stretch this just nice and gently. And then we can take a nice deep breath and we will lift our arms above our head. So breathe in. And stretch up, breathe out as you stretch up. Take another deep breath in and bring down. Very good. And of course, I didn't have anything planned, but let's just do a very gentle neck stretch so you can gently just tip your head to one side. Of course, you don't want to overdo it, just what feels comfortable. We'll go to the other side. Very good. Maybe just do a nice shoulder, bring your shoulders back, round them back. All right, just a good little reset. And if you would like, feel free to stand up and stretch if you need to do that too. But I think we'll take it from there and we'll start networking.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Nina. We always aim to model healthy behavior, healthy meeting behavior, and of course, making sure that we honor the fact that we sit a lot and in our work, and we want to definitely have movement breaks and really think about that. We have been sharing for the last couple of meetings also the opportunity to bring back to your organization a sugar sweetened beverage policy that basically is mostly for your meetings and in your own organization, that you recognize the consumption of added sugars increase your risk of chronic disease, including heart disease and diabetes and certain cancers. And you want to reduce sugar in all of the beverages at your workplace and also in meetings that you offer, and include things like water, seltzer, coffee, tea, 100% natural fruit juice with no added sugar. So that policy is available. I will send it out after the meeting. And Stacy, do you still have these free Healthy Ulster Council bottles to go with an organization that does the policy?
Yes, absolutely. And when you sign it on with the policy, we'll give you enough water bottles for your work site to meet the needs of everybody at your work site. We do have enough.
That sounds awesome. So just know that's out there. I'll share that through our Healthy Ulster Google group and through email. So you'll be seeing the policy coming. I want to remind everyone that we do have a Healthy Ulster Google group. Generally, when you attend a meeting, I add you directly. But if you know of someone who wants to join the group, it's a place you can post information and share among members in the Healthy Ulster Council. And you receive information from other people. So it sort of extends our networking session. You can share some things there that you may not have time to share here as well. And everyone has the opportunity to reach out to inquire if you can present your program on Healthy Ulster Radio, which I think I still haven't removed from the slide. When do you actually air? Is it just Sunday?
No, it adjusted for a little while and it's back to Saturdays and Sundays as noted on the slide.
Awesome.
Yes.
So it airs on Saturday or Sunday, but the beauty is you record it on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And really, it's a very pleasant experience in the interview, and it's a great show. So if you're interested in having your program or message on Healthy Ulster Radio, you want to reach out to Stacy. And I will continue to share more contact information as we go along. We're coming up to our facilitated networking session where you briefly share your organization's upcoming program or event. Rules for that are keep it short and sweet. I'm going to call on each and every one of you to share. You want to share your name, the name of your organization, and briefly share an upcoming event or program you would like everyone to know about. Try to focus on that event or program rather than your entire organization because you're only going to have a minute or two. And remember, you can share extra details such as your website and program dates in the chat. So